Hi everyone, this is Kyle, and I got another interesting Lord of the Rings article here. This is from boundingintocomics.com. I tell you, the people on Bounding Into Comics, they do a real good job with all their research and whatnot. But this touches on one interesting subject here. So the article is titled, Lord of the Rings Screenwriter Philippa Boyens explains how Sam and Frodo have a real genuine friendship without any political or sexual implication. Now what makes this interesting, I mean, there are a lot of people in entertainment today, and a lot of woke and social justice activists, that general crowd. There are people who look at Lord of the Rings and they desperately want Frodo and Sam to be gay. That way we have LGBTQ representation. No, Frodo and Sam are not gay. I mean, the logic that a lot of these people have is that if two men are friends, if they're close friends, they must be gay, and, period, end of discussion. There's no other possible explanation in their mind, which... yes, you can be friends with a guy without being in a relationship with him. Okay, so the article starts off, Lord of the Rings film trilogy screenwriter Philippa Boyens made abundantly clear that there was no intention to depict Frodo and Sam as... This is a big word right here. Am I allowed to say this word? I'm not going to say that word. But you see this word right here, as many woke activists are attempting to do. In an interview conducted back in 2003 during the promotion of Lord of the Rings: Return of the King, Boyens was asked how the film depicts real sentiment between Sam and Frodo rather than manufactured emotion. She answered, I think what I like about this is that Sam has, I think, is an understanding, a shared understanding, which is why we deliberately put in the beginning of the movie Sam's belief that there would be a return journey. It was very important. You didn't want to palm it. You just wanted to slip it in there. We didn't want to do a big, huge setup, just getting them there, that Sam has an expectation that there will be a return journey. Boyens continued, in that, I think that little scene where he says, I don't think there's going to be a return journey, and Frodo looks at him, something passes between them, which Frodo actually knew already, which is, there was no going back. Yeah, that one line where he says, I don't think there's going to be a return journey from Return of the King. Yeah, I mean, that was a rather deep line. I mean, he's been optimistic the entire trilogy, you could say, and suddenly things have changed, where he's like, I don't think we're going to get out of this. Again, which Frodo already actually knew already, which is there was no going back. They weren't going to survive this, and that's how they go forward, that's how they proceed. That's part of their stoicism and heroism as characters. Yeah, and she uses the word stoicism here, where, they sort of keep their emotions to themselves. I mean, that's something that goes against what a lot of people in current society believe in, at least in regards to men. I mean, this word stoicism, it is a trait of men, and trait of masculinity, and it's a trait that you could argue society's trying to drill out of men. They want men today to be more emotional. They want them to be more in touch with their emotions and things like that. They want men to be more like women, and no, I mean, for society to function, I mean, men need to be men. And the heroism of these two characters, I mean, they know they're not going to survive that journey, or at least they think they do. I mean, the Eagles, Gandalf and the Eagles come in and save them, but they don't think they're going to survive, but they still go in and fulfill that quest anyway. And the only reason they can do that is because they are together, she asserted. And I think that's a lovely bond, and it's lovely to be able to do that between two male characters without any kind of political implication or sexual implication. It's just the truth of a friendship, a real genuine friendship, and it's quite clean. And yeah, I mean, the logic people have today is that if two men are friends, they must be gay. And it's like, no, you can, two guys can be friends. And people in the social justice crowd, the woke crowd or whatever, they have been trying to do mental gymnastics to try and convince themselves that Frodo and Sam are gay. That way we have LGBTQ representation in Lord of the Rings. But no, I mean, two men can be friends. And I think it plays the experience of J.R.R. Tolkien, who obviously went, and even though he hated the allegory of the World Wars, I think you can feel this was written by somebody who went through something like the trenches of World War I, she concluded. And yeah, as it's going to state next, Tolkien, he did use some of his life experiences in Lord of the Rings. Interestingly, Tolkien informed biographer Humphrey Carpenter back in 1977 that Samwise was indeed inspired by his comrades in the trenches of World War I. Carpenter quoted Tolkien in J.R.R. Tolkien's biography, My Sam Gamgee is indeed a reflection of the English soldier, of the privates and batmen I knew in the 1914 war and recognized as so far superior to myself. Tolkien reiterated these comments in a letter Written to H. Cotton Minchin, dated April 16, 1956, he wrote, "My Samwise is indeed, as you note, largely a reflection of the English soldier grafted on the village boys of early days." I mean, yeah, village boys, I mean, kind of ordinary people. I mean, one theme of Tolkien's work is you have ordinary people doing extraordinary things. It's one of the themes I like about Lord of the Rings, about Tolkien's work. And continues, "The memory of the privates and my Batman that I knew in the 1914 war and recognized as so far superior to myself." Tolkien scholar John Garth also described the relationship between Sam and Frodo. The relationship between Frodo and Sam closely reflects the hierarchy of the officer and his servant in the First World War. Officers had a university education and a middle-class background. Working-class men stayed at the rank of private or at best sergeant. He detailed, "A social gulf divides the literate, leisured Frodo from his former gardener, now responsible for wake-up calls, cooking and packing. British masculine reticence and class consciousness problemized the communications between batmen and officers, the odd couples of the battlefield." Tolkien maps the gradual breakdown of restraint through prolonged peril until Sam can take Frodo in his arms and call him "Frodo, my dear." By then the hierarchy is largely inverted. Frodo moves towards a childlike dependency. He presents the problems, Sam the solutions, he asserts. In the First World War, this process was far from atypical. Officers were given commissions for class reasons, not because they were experienced soldiers or leaders, whereas the privates and batmen often had the age, experience, and wisdom their official superiors lacked. And he goes on, he talks about C.S. Lewis here. Garth goes on, C.S. Lewis, his own personal experience. C.S. Lewis, for example, had played Frodo to his Sergeant Sam. "I came to pity and reverence the ordinary man, particularly dear Sergeant Harris," Lewis recalled. "I was a feudal officer. They gave commissions too easily then. A puppet moved about by him, and he turned this ridiculous and painful relation into something beautiful, become to me almost like a father." With the help of Sam's homely chatter, Frodo even laughs on the edge of Mordor. Such a sound had not been heard in those places since Sauron came to Middle-earth, Tolkien notes. This is the kind of laughter that war correspondent Philip Gibbs, it can now be told, believed acted as an escape from terror, a liberation of the soul by mental explosion. From the prison walls of despair and brooding on the Western Front, he concludes. Clearly, Sam and Frodo's friendship, as characterized and portrayed by Tolkien in The Lord of the Rings, was inspired by his own experience with his Batman in the trenches of World War I. It's even more than just friendship. It's a total trust in one another. It's true love, not in the sexual way, but as St. Thomas Aquinas defined it, to love is to will the good of the other. That's a pretty good way of putting it, St. Thomas Aquinas. And this is an aspect of Lord of the Rings. I mean, the people out there, the activists, the woke crowd, whatever you want to call them, they look through people's stories and people's works and they try to look for messages in them where they simply do not exist. And this is an example of that. They see Frodo and Sam are friends, and they get their hopes up thinking that Frodo and Sam are gay and that we have diversity and representation and things like that. And no, Frodo and Sam, they were just friends. They went through a lot of struggles together, and they were already pretty close friends before that. They became probably even closer friends afterwards because they went through a lot together in the story. And Sam even got married at the end of Lord of the Rings. I mean, that right there, I mean, that should put an end to any speculation, but that's not going to stop the activists out there from having their hopes up. I mean, in reality, no. I mean, two guys can be friends without being in an intimate relationship. And Frodo and Sam here, that would be one example. They went through a lot together, just like all the men that fought in World War I, Tolkien being one of them in the trenches. They went through a lot together. I mean, the type of experiences that young men went through 100 years ago, Tolkien himself being one of them, I mean, they were far different from the problems that people today face. And as a result, I mean, I think friendships back then, you could say they were probably a lot different than what they are now. Everyone, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, if you consider hitting the like button, hitting the subscribe button, I greatly appreciate it. Thank you all very much for watching this video, and I'll see you next time. Take care until then.